History is often told as a story of great kings, glorious empires, and heroic battles. But what if the history you learned in school was only half the truth? Behind the polished version of events lies a darker reality, one filled with bloodshed, suffering, secrets, and lies. Tonight we uncover the dark history schools never told you. From the very beginning of civilization, power has always been built on the backs of the forgotten. The Great Wall of China is remembered as a symbol of strength, but behind its stones lie the bones of thousands who died building it. Ancient records suggest that over 1 million laborers, peasants, prisoners, and soldiers were forced to work on the wall, often in brutal conditions. Many never returned home. Their bodies were buried within the construction itself, turning the wall into not just a monument of defense, but also a massive tomb. Schools call it a wonder of the world, but rarely do they mention the suffering that made it possible. In Egypt, students are taught about the magnificence of the pyramids, but not the cruel reality of how they were built. For years, the myth persisted that slaves built the pyramids, while evidence now shows it was largely skilled workers and peasants conscripted into labor. Yet the conditions were harsh beyond imagination. People worked under the scorching desert sun, moving stones weighing tons with little rest. Many died from exhaustion, crushed by stones, or from disease spread in the crowded labor camps. The pyramids remain as marvels of engineering, but they're also silent witnesses to human sacrifice for the glory of kings. Then we move to the medieval era, a time often romanticized with knights, castles, and chivalry. But the truth is far darker. During the Crusades, holy wars launched in the name of God. Entire cities were burned to the ground. In 1099, when Crusaders captured Jerusalem, they slaughtered men, women, and children in such numbers that chronicles describe blood flowing through the streets. Yet, in many school books, the Crusades are glossed over as a clash of civilizations, ignoring the sheer brutality and suffering inflicted on millions. For those who lived it, it was not a tale of glory, but of horror. History also hides the dark truth of the Mongol Empire. Schools may mention the vast territory they conquered, stretching from Asia to Europe, but they rarely dwell on the rivers of blood that followed. Genghis Khan's armies destroyed entire cities, sometimes killing hundreds of thousands in a single campaign. In Nishapur, Persia, every living soul was executed after a Mongol general's death, with estimates of more than 1.5 million people wiped out. This was not conquest, it was annihilation. And yet, textbooks often portray the Mongols simply as great conquerors who connected east and west, without acknowledging the unimaginable human cost. Another dark chapter left in the shadows is the transatlantic slave trade. In schools, it may be reduced to a few paragraphs, but in reality, it was one of the most horrific crimes in human history. Millions of Africans were kidnapped, chained, and forced onto ships in inhumane conditions. Many died before even reaching the Americas. Those who survived faced lives of brutality, forced labor, and abuse. Empires and economies were built on their suffering, and yet the voices of the enslaved are too often silenced in the lessons we teach children. Their pain was real, their stories were erased, and their legacy deserves more than silence. We cannot forget the exploitation behind colonial empires. In the 19th and 20th centuries, European powers carved up Africa and Asia, presenting themselves as civilizers. But what schools rarely tell is the violence, starvation, and cultural destruction that followed. In the Congo Free State, under King Leopold II of Belgium, millions were forced into rubber production under horrific conditions. Villages were burned, people mutilated, and entire communities destroyed. By some estimates, up to 10 million people died. Yet many school books reduce colonialism to a few sentences about trade and exploration, leaving out the rivers of blood it caused. Even in modern history, the truth is often hidden or rewritten. Take World War II. Schools teach about the bravery of Allied forces and the downfall of Nazi Germany. But rarely do they focus on the fire bombings of Dresden and Tokyo, where tens of thousands of civilians were incinerated in a single night. Or the dropping of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which instantly killed over 100,000 people and left survivors suffering radiation for generations. These events are sometimes presented as necessary acts of war, but for the victims, they were apocalyptic nightmares. The victors wrote the story, leaving the darkest truths in the shadows. And what about the countless indigenous peoples whose histories were erased altogether? In North America, children are taught of pilgrims and pioneers, but not the massacres of native tribes, the forced removals, or the cultural genocide that destroyed entire nations. In Australia, the story of colonization is softened, while the suffering of the Aboriginal people is buried under silence. History is not only about what is told, but also about what is deliberately left untold. Why does this matter? Because history shapes the way we see the world, and when the truth is hidden, we inherit a false sense of who we are. Schools often sanitize history to make it easier to digest, to avoid the discomfort of confronting humanity's darkest chapters. But in doing so, they rob us of the chance to learn the real lessons, that power often thrives on violence, that progress can be built on suffering, and that silence only ensures history repeats itself. The truth is, history is not just kings and heroes, but also slaves, workers, victims, and the forgotten. Their voices were silenced in their time, but we can choose to listen now. By uncovering the dark history schools never told us, we gain a clearer, more honest picture of the world we live in today. These stories may be painful, but they are necessary, because the past is never truly gone. It still lives with us, shaping our present and our future. So next time you open a history book, remember, what you see is not the whole story. Behind every monument is a hidden sacrifice. Behind every empire is untold suffering. And behind every victory is a silence waiting to be broken. If you found this journey eye-opening, subscribe to Past in Shadow for more lost stories, forbidden history, and the secrets schools never dared to tell.